And so many people who fall short of their stated goals and values are making a decision in that moment to hit the snooze button, to say no, to say maybe tomorrow, based on how they feel in that second, rather than making a decision based on their goals and their values. In this episode of Move the Chains podcast, I want to break down an important concept. It's in my book, Fuck Your Feelings. It's in most of the workshops that I do, almost every time I speak and teach groups. And it's called Define Your Values. So if you've read Fuck Your Feelings, even if you haven't, the gist of the book is not to poo-poo on feelings, but to help you understand what drives your decisions. 95% of our decisions are actually made based on how we feel in that given moment of choice. So if you are interested in being a high performer, if you are trying to achieve big goals, this is critical to understand. The larger the goal, the longer the timeline it's going to require for you to achieve that goal, which means the more micro decisions, the more mini opportunities there will be along the way for you to be derailed by decisions made based on how you feel in that given moment. I always use the example of an Olympic athlete, right? Because the Olympics only happen every 4 years. And it's not like anybody just snaps their fingers and says, hey, I'm going to be an Olympian in the next cycle, right? Most Olympians train for years in order to become an athlete capable of performing at that level. So let's just say you decide at 8 years old, hey, I'm going to be an Olympian in swimming or rowing or whatever your sport is. You've got 12 years by the time you're 20 to do that training. And maybe if you're lucky at 20 or 24, you get to participate in your first Olympic Games. So that's 12 to 16 years of training in order to get to that level where you're even at the threshold, right? And then that doesn't even talk about getting from, your foot in the door to actually being able to medal, to being one of the top three, right? There's a huge gap between an Olympic medalist and an Olympian. It's the same thing for any sport, right? There's a big gap between saying, hey, I played in the major leagues versus being an all-star, versus being a Hall of Famer, versus being on the Mount Rushmore of whatever your sport is, right? So we can all agree that Kobe Bryant is not on the same level as some random guy that was lucky enough to play in the NBA for 8, 10, 12 years, but we don't know his name, right? There's a lot of those folks. And I'm not saying it's not great to accomplish that, being in the major leagues or playing in the NBA, being an Olympian. I'm just highlighting the difference in commitment, in standards, in performance. The higher you go up, the more the little things matter, right? And so, again, using our Olympian as an analogy, if you've got 12 to 16 years before you even get to like, hey, here's the gateway, here's the door to the thing. How many 4 a.m. alarm clocks, how many 5 a.m. workouts, how many meals, how many training sessions, all of those little things that add up over time, right? Do you think Kobe Bryant was hitting the snooze button at 4 a.m. when his alarm went off and it said, hey, go work out? Like, that's the difference between getting to that level and accomplishing the things you want and not. And so many people who fall short of their stated goals and values are making a decision in that moment to hit the snooze button, to say no, to say maybe tomorrow, based on how they feel in that second, rather than making a decision based on their goals and their values, right? That's the difference in normal people and high performers. So again, the gist of the book is to teach you how to do that. And when I say I want you to be able to make decisions based on your goals and values, rather than your fleeting, transient feelings, your state that will change, the state that you're in right now is not the same state that you will be in 30 minutes, in 3 hours, in 3 days. If you're always making decisions based on that state, how can you ever be consistent? Because your state is always changing, right? And so in order to make decisions made based on your values, you have to first define what those values are. How can you do it if you don't know what those values are? You can't. So a little bit of background on this. I think I told you guys in the first episode of this Move the Change podcast, I used to own a gym from 2012 to 2016. When I started it, I started the gym because, like most strength coaches and nutritionists, I was passionate about how do I need to eat? What do you need to eat in order to achieve your goals? How do you need to train? What are the coolest exercises to do? What's the ultimate protocol? All that stuff. Look, I can roll out the red carpet. All you have to do is walk it and you're going to get those results, right? That became the easy part for me, the programming. What started to really fascinate me was the folks walking in on Monday morning saying, hey, what do I need to do to undo the things I did over the weekend? In my head, I'm sitting here saying, look, we've rolled out the red carpet, whether you want to get a college scholarship to play sports, if you're, a mom and you want to set a great example for your kids and you want to teach them the right ways to train and body positivity, and here's how you eat and have energy to play with your kids. No matter what the goals were, people were coming in and their actions weren't aligned with those goals and values. And that's what became fascinating to me. Why can you not align your choices with those goals and values? And so by the time I sold the gym, that was the work that I wanted to pursue. And that's what I've been doing since 2016. As I said, that's what led to writing the book. The idea was to attempt to answer that question and to create a user's manual for the human body and the brain so that you can unlock high performance and achieve any goal that you want to pursue. The number one step to avoiding falling into that trap of making decisions based on feelings and how you feel in the moment is to first define your values, right? I can't tell you how many times when I'm speaking, I'll walk into any corporation, any office, even police, fire departments. And, I can stand in front of the room and say, hey, raise your hand if you know the core values of this department or this company. And 9 out of 10 hands go up. Most people know those. I say, okay, keep your hand in the air if you know your core values as an individual. Most people don't. So again, how can you make choices that are aligned with your core values if you don't know what they are? You can't. So the first step is define your values. Here's how we do it. I will walk you through this process. You may want to hit pause on the podcast, take some time to write these things down. If you're driving, maybe earmark this, come back to this, check the timestamp, come back to this when you can actually write things down. If you're on a treadmill or if you're working out, maybe you can make some notes. But this is one where you're going to want to actually sit down and spend some time with this. The first step is to take about 5 or 10 minutes, write down as many qualities as you can. The important thing with this step is there's no censorship. There's no right or wrong answer. You're not attempting to narrow your list down right now. This step is to help you build as big of a word bank as possible. 10, 15, 20 different qualities is what we're looking for here. And I want you to think about a couple of prompt type questions for you. What do you stand for? What do you stand against, right? If you struggle to think of things that you stand for or things that you want to lean into, sometimes it's helpful to come at it from the opposite approach, right? What drives you crazy? Maybe you and I get pissed off when somebody is rude to a barista because they think they can be, right? So maybe then we value what's the opposite of that would be kindness, right? So maybe we value kindness. Think about the qualities of great leaders that you've been around or that you've seen. They don't even have to be people that you've interacted with in person. They can be fictional. They can be historical and no longer alive. If there's a person from history that had great leadership qualities that you aspire to emulate, or again, a fictional character on TV or in movies. Think about great leaders, coaches, bosses that you've had in the past Think about bad ones. Sometimes, again, we can learn as much from negative experiences as from positive. If you've had a bad coach, a bad manager, a bad leader, what were the things they did that made them bad? And how could you correct that? How could you fill that gap, right? So more questions. What legacy do you want to leave? If people are talking about you, what words do you want them to use to describe you? How do you want to be remembered? How do you want people to talk about you? These are all great questions designed to help you articulate those values that matter to you, the principles, the things that you stand for, the things that you will fight for. Don't censor, just write. I would encourage you to listen through this again, listen through the questions. I know I threw a bunch at you really quickly. Hit pause. Think about this 3, 5, 10 minutes, get a great list going. And now I'll tell you the remaining steps. When you've come back to this with your list, you're going to take a pause. Poor choice of words there. Not a pause on the podcast, but get some space from this. So wait 48 to 72 hours. It's 2 to 3 days. And then I want you to revisit this word list, right? Because as we said earlier, your state is constantly changing. The state that you're in right now is different than the state that you will be in 2 or 3 days. So when you revisit this list in a couple of days, I want you to identify the 3 words that resonate with you the most. Now, there will be a tendency to pick 4 or 5. I'll caution you not to do that many. Because what happens is it ends up becoming an exercise in memorization. And we don't want that. If you're constantly spending your time memorizing and trying to remember what those values are, it's going to be very difficult for you to act on those values, right? So limit it to no more than 3. And those 3 that resonate with you the most when you revisit the list are going to be the ones. And again, you can actually double that and say, okay, here, I circled these after 2 or 3 days. Let me revisit it in a week and see if those are still in the 3. Maybe 2 of them are, and you want to swap one of them out for a different one that was in your original word bank. That's fine. So those become your values. That's now your decision-making matrix. It's a scaffolding. It is a true north compass point that helps you make your decisions now. So if you're tired, if you don't feel well, if you don't feel like doing something, you can ask yourself, hey, if I say no to showing up for this, am I going to be showing up as that fearless, courageous leader that I said I wanted to be? If I don't help so-and-so, am I going to be the supportive manager that I said was important to me, right? It becomes very, very easy to identify the right actions for you in any instance when you have clearly defined your values ahead of time, right? And that's why this exercise is so important. Now, the next step here is to make these something that you see often. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can write them down on a sticky note. You can post those sticky notes on a bathroom mirror. You can put them on a piece of paper, have it laminated, keep it on your nightstand or on your desk at work. Since we live in a digital age, I think the most common way that I've seen this done is, most people like to create an alert on their phone, and you can have an alarm that goes off at 9, 10, 11 o'clock every morning and have it ask you a question. Am I being that person? And after the question mark, you list your 3 words, whatever your 3 words are. You can have it go off multiple times a day. Or if those morning times don't work for you, have it ask you at a time that does work for you. But the important thing here is that you're seeing them frequently. You're reminding yourself, this is how you want to move through the world. This is how you want to show up. This is the person you want to be. And the more often, the more frequently you see them, the more they become ingrained and can help you act, again, as that true north compass point for your decision-making processes. The final thing I'll say here on this and the importance of this is, as you look at those words in your word bank now, what is stopping you from showing up that way, from moving through the world that way right now? It's one of 2 things. It's either nothing or it's you. Either way, you have the ability to start showing up as that version of you right away. It's not a trick. There's nobody actively playing defense. There's nobody, Dikembe Mutombo is not trying to block your shot. He's not the one standing in front of you saying, no, Bob, you can't be a kinder person right now. I'm not going to allow that. Right? There's no one stopping you from being kinder or from being more supportive, right? There's no active opposition externally to you, right? It's all you. It's all in your control. So if this is something that is important to you, have that reminder and show up as that version of you. So again, as always, hit me up with any questions on this. RyanMunsey.com is the website. There's a contact me form on there. Happy to answer any questions for you. Look, I'm glad you're here. I'm excited for the conversations and guests to bring you in the future. Each week, I'll give you tips and tools on how to move the chains in your day-to-day life with real-world examples from my life, my coaching clients and friends, and other high-performing, successful folks to see how their versions of Move the Chains are fueling their successes. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the Move the Chains podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you get notified of new episodes. And if you dig what you're hearing, please leave us a review. Those really do help. And until then, we'll see you on the next one.